Hello and welcome to Astrology Talk Forecast. I'm Mallory Key, professional astrologer accredited with the American Federation of Astrologers, and I'm here to bring you the January forecast for 2025. And this is the Astrology Talk Forecast, and then on January 8th, I will hold on every first Wednesday of the month unless there's a major holiday. I do astrology talk class to help you actually participate in a 45-minute class, whereas this is just 20. This is just for information. So if you want a little bit more kind of a hands-on, you can join us on Zoom on the 8th, and that is a paid class for $25 per person. All right, so I also am a tropical astrologer. I use the tropical zodiac and also Placidius house system. And this purpose of this is to inform, bring awareness, and clarify, and offer a space for individuals to personalize the astrological aspects by seeing how celestial bodies are interacting with natal planets and house placements in one's birth chart. Thank you for all on the Zoom call, and thank you Cosmic Connections and staff and my teacher, Mr. Thomas Parsons. Also, on the outline, I'm going to include a bonus for this month for the January, and so just be aware of that. This might take just a little bit longer than 20 minutes if it does. So I'm going to notice the elements. This is going to be something that you want to start weaving in when I do these forecasts. The full moon in Cancer, new moon in Aquarius for January. Mars and Pluto are going to be in another opposition in January. They will have 3 in all. Mars retrograde back into Cancer. This is a retrograde of a very energizing planet. Bonus information, and then that includes the winter solstice in Capricorn, which is December, coming up very quickly here. And then January 20th next year is also a part of that bonus. All right, the elements really quickly: fire, earth, air, and water. Those are the 4 main elements. There's ether, the spirit. Okay, but these are the 4 that we work with right now with astrology. Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are your fire signs. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn are your earth signs. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius are your air signs. Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are your water signs. Fire signs are up and going. They want to do. They'll feel helpless if they can't get something done. Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, if they can't physically manage it, whatever, there could be a problem. They feel anguish in their body, their aches. And Capricorn is the beginning season of the cardinal sign of the earth, beginning of a season. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius are your social signs. They're the ones that talk and want to think about things and how to think outside the line sometimes. So Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, those are your intuitive signs, emotional signs, and they're sensitive. All right. So the ones that begin a season are Aries, Capricorn, Libra, Cancer. We call those cardinal signs. March at spring equinox is the Aries, winter solstice is Capricorn, fall equinox is Libra, and summer solstice is Cancer. This is all in the northern hemisphere. You'd have to flip that for the southern hemisphere. All right. Okay, we're going to start with a full moon. So here we go. Full moon is at 23 degrees of Cancer. This happens on January 13th, 2025 at 4:26 p.m. Central Time, and that's 4:14 p.m. for those in Nashville where I'm filming this. So we have the moon opposite the sun, and here I'm not going to ignore this. We have Mars retrograde going towards the moon going towards Mars, and same with the sun, except Mars is the opposite. So we have water and earth. So now we have the moon, which in mundane astrology is the people, and the sun is your supreme authority of the state. And Mars is our action, ability to take action. In a mundane astrology, Mars represents the armed forces and divisive elements in society or war. So even in that part, Mars could ignite something, because in Cancer, it's fighting for the homeland. And it doesn't necessarily mean to fight. It could be just assert oneself. It could be, I'm going to stand up and do something about or take on a project. In the astrology wheel, it rules the Cancer rules the fourth house of home, where we came from in our childhood. So, this is kind of going backwards, revisiting, revising, reviewing our actions, our ability to take action and assert oneself, or forge new trails, or we might have to rethink about forging new trails or pioneering something. And if there was something that you had started prior to that, Mars might want you to go back and revisit that and start working on it again. All right, so that's our Cancer full moon. Now I'm going to talk about the aspects that are happening with this moon. One of the things is the Sun, Moon, and Mars are trine and sextile to Uranus. Now, Uranus is our planet of freedom. It's the one that is about technology advancement, getting you unstuck from a rut or the past, and it moves forward. And so we have, it's also our trauma too. It rules Aquarius, and that is our trauma area of the chart. So when we have a positive aspect, we might be actually igniting something really good, lighting up something about Uranus moving toward the future or advancement of something with technology. And so having our emotional body is also the moon, and our ego is the sun. The moon is also considered our subconscious. So Mars being the action, igniting something with Uranus, this is going to be a real exciting moment, actually. And then another positive aspect that's happening with this moon is that Neptune is involved. So we have a trine from the moon to Neptune and Mars, and a sextile from the sun to Neptune. Well, Neptune is about our film, it's Hollywood, it's movies, it's about anything creative, the arts, music, artistic adventures. So that is our artistic planet. It's also spiritual planet. It's spiritual healing. And I have to also say Neptune is medicine, pharmaceutical. So I hope something positive comes out with that as well. So we have an interesting dynamic here with these trines and positive angles with the trines and sextiles. All right, and I'll also mention that was dealing with water and earth. So yes, I did say that. Okay, so new moon. The new moon is going to be when the sun and moon are together in the heavens. You don't see the moon during this time. So we have a new moon in Aquarius at 9 degrees. So you look at your natal chart and see where 9 degrees of Aquarius is. And that 9 degrees is not too far away from Jupiter as far as an angle. It is a trine. It's a 2 degrees ahead Jupiter's 2 degrees ahead. So the sun and moon are applying towards that Jupiter. Jupiter is retrograding back towards the sun and moon. And this new moon happens on January 29th at 6:36 a.m. Central Time, 6:24 a.m. Nashville. And so you want to see where these angles are in your chart. Jupiter is about talking when it's in Gemini. It's communicating because Gemini is the communication sign. It's also in the at the end of a season, so Gemini sometimes can't make up its mind. And Jupiter is expanding wherever it lands, so it's expanding, revisiting, revising, reviewing anything with technology or short distance travel or siblings or that extended family unit. So if you have to go back and revisit, revising on what you wrote, said, spoke, anything of that nature. And then having this inquisitive, inventive, the humanitarian Aquarian, where that sun and moon are. So it's something with the population around January 29th at the end. All right, so let's go to the next part of this podcast is Mars and Pluto. Mars is god of war. Pluto is god of the underworld. So we have these two opposing each other. Again, it's 3 times. The first time it happened November 3rd, 2024. This is the second time on January 3rd, and it'll happen again April 26, 2025. So Mars is in a sign that it likes in a way. It's a fire sign. Mars rules Aries as a fire sign, and now it's in the fixed fire sign of Leo. And Leo is the about creativity, fun, play, enjoying your life. It's dynamic, it's expressive, it's passionate. And so this will ignite Mars's energy to be more passionate. And, Leo is ruled by the sun, so it's really might be on stage. Now, Pluto is going to be Aquarius at 1 degree, and this is the exact 1.8 minutes and 1.8 and then 8 minutes there as well. So, and one of the astrologers, and I cannot remember his name, I do not take credit for this, but I think it was Rick Levine. He said when Mars and Pluto are at odds with each other and they're about to go in the ring and box it out, if Mars doesn't, hit with that first strike and nail Pluto down the first go, there's not a prayer for Mars. And that's not exactly the way he said it, but I think Rick Levine, astrologer, he's wonderful. If you haven't heard his information in YouTube videos, has a lot out there. And Astrology Hub is another place that's great for information. So I just say this is, look at what was happening November. I'm not going to go back into the history of it right now, but November 3rd, what was happening in your life, what was happening on the world stage, what was happening with Israel and Ukraine and things like that. Notice the history and there's a lot of undercurrent also going because Pluto is power. Pluto is about money. It's and also on the shadow side, it could be manipulative with power and money. And Mars is its wonderful side is pioneering and forging ahead, but on the other side, it could be too assertive and aggressive. So we have these two planets at odds with each other. Pluto being the humanitarian sign, and Mars being the expressive, dynamic, fun play, and also ruled by the sun. So we have fire and air being the elements predominant there. All right, so now the other things happening with this opposition, I do want to talk about these three. It is time for the nodes to be recognized, and I'm going to talk about that shift of the nodes. The north node is the dragon's head in Chinese astrology. The south node is the dragon's tail. North node is where we need to be moving the energy towards, our focus towards. The south node is where we've been. We've already encompassed that energy, been there, done it. So Libra is the sign of the scales of justice. It's about relationship. It's ruled by Venus. So relations and money security and things like that. Now we're into the Aries, and we're actually at the end of this cycle. We're moving into a new cycle, and I'll show you about that. But it's this is a positive aspect between Pluto. It'll be this is a nice sextile and a nice trine with Pluto, and then a sextile to the south and moving, trying to. So this is a beautiful, very powerful aspect to the nodes. And then Jupiter will square Saturn as well at that time. So Jupiter expands, Saturn restricts. Jupiter wants to, give you your heart's desire. Saturn's like, I'm going to be practical. It kind of makes sure that you have a good foundation and are being responsible and in integrity. And Jupiter's moving in retrograde motion, revisiting, revising that expansion, while Saturn is moving forward right now at 14 degrees in Pisces. And so this is kind of like a dance between what needs to be spoken with that Gemini energy and what needs to be healed, or on a religious front, because this Pisces is also spiritual. It's, and Saturn's more practical. So it's kind of more of a religious stand, or it could be a more another opportunity to a platform for spirituality and also spiritual healing. All right. So now Mars opposes Pluto again in 2026, and I was just going to show you that it is in Aquarius at 3 degrees. So you want to find out where those points are in your chart and see what action or activity is happening with your natal planets. Okay, so Mars returning to Cancer. I know we're spending a lot of time on Mars because it's important. When our energy planet is going backwards, it's our, this is time to, as I said before, revisit and revise any plans that you put on the back burner. Maybe Mars is saying, hey, go get that and start working back on that project, working on that book, working on something with another person even. What do you want? Because Mars is about me, my I. It rules Aries. And what are you needing to go back and look at? So on January 6th, it begins its it begins its return to Cancer. It began retrograde motion in Leo on December 5th, and it will go direct on December 17th, February 23rd, 2025. So this is when it's direct at 17 degrees. And that was my Alexa going off, excuse me. So just be aware of where that is in your chart, that 29 going back into the homeland type of energy, the intuitive water sign. Okay, here's the bonus information. And the first bonus piece I'm going to do is really December, but it starts that winter season. And I do want to bring what that is right here. It's 0 degrees of Capricorn. So look at, see in your chart, where does 0 degrees of Capricorn fall for you? And that's beginning a new season, a new start, and another sign of earth. So now we came from fire, and now it's going into this earth sign, and it's a cardinal point. So that's at December 21st, 2024, 3:20 a.m. is when the winter solstice arrives. And there are so many cultures that do ceremony around this point. This is one of the angular points, as we talked about before, on the solstices and equinox. Very pivotal moment in time. I also want to just note that Pluto will be at 0 degrees of Aquarius. These are neighbors, so I don't think the energy is going to be as wonky as if it was in a square or an opposition or a sextile or a trine or a conjunction. So we have the two next door neighbors to each other, and they're that's energy, but it's not really making a drastic, is from my point of view. Now, the aspects for the winter solstice is the sun will be at 0 degrees, Pluto 0. The sun will be a T-square to the nodes. This is what I wanted to let you realize, is that we do have this T-square from the south node and the north node. T-squares make you make a decision. It's like, this is time. A 90-degree angle means you either have to choose yes, no, or maybe, or don't even make a decision is making a decision, because you're going to have this right in front of your face. This is the past. The south node is the dragon's tail. The north node, the horseshoe up, is the dragon's head. And so the dragon's tail is where we've been. The dragon's head is where we're going. So we just to have that another message about the nodal axis again, in a very tension, frustration, anxiety, to force you to look at something. Now, Pluto will be at a nice aspect to those nodes. And so it will also trine and sextile the nodes. So Pluto's talking to the nodal axis, very well, if I put that back up. So because air fuels fire, and then air and air get along. All right. So now we have another aspect. At that moment of the winter solstice, look at what here is 13 degrees 8 minutes, 13 degrees 48 minutes. I mean, it's still almost very, very close. So the moon is our emotional body, as we said. Saturn is about practicality, groundedness. It is like what is being where does the rubber meet the road kind of thing, and where's my responsibility and integrity. So with the moon female body, it's also the people, and Saturn is also the leaders, the government, it's banking, it's things that somebody in an opposition, somebody could be controlling. And then we have that Jupiter square Saturn at the same time of this solstice. So there's a lot going on with this T-square. I didn't want to put everything on there because it gets so confusing with the lines, but just there's a lot going on at this moment. So just be prepared for this coming week, all right, if you watch this ahead of time. Okay, so now we are on to the nodal shift, all right? The nodes are shifting signs in January, and this is on the 11th of 2025. The next time they'll shift is not till 2026, and it's July. So it's actually July 26, 2026. So the nodal shift on January 11th, 2025 is coming from Aries and Libra axis to Pisces Virgo axis. So notice that it's at 29, it's shifted. The nodes go backwards compared to the planets. So they're traveling opposite of the planetary motion. So the nodal axis is not an actual place. It's not an actual physical object, but it is a point that when the moon travels over the equatorial plane in relationship to the earth and the sun and going up over it to the southern part of it. So here's your dragon's head. Where we're moving is Pisces land. So we're going to have Pisces land for a year and a half of dealing with water, sensitivity, creativity, spirituality, spiritual healing, other modalities to heal, any kind of religious on the spiritual level. And then also the South Node, we came in from that hands-on, the Virgo energy, very grounding, methodical, but it's analytical thinking. It's like it gets down to the detail of something and knows how to structure things to the detail minute of that. Whereas Pisces has no boundaries and there is fluid. It just can maybe decide to do this and then decide to do that. So, but Virgo is not quite like that at all. It's more, I would look at the Virgo as like the hands-on healer and Pisces as the spiritual healer. So that's what will be happening on January 11th of this next month. Inauguration Day. Okay, you ready? I'm not going into politics. I will only tell you what is happening on that day because it's a very historic day in the United States. Okay, so this is our inauguration day on January 20th at 11 a.m. I think that's about what time they do that. And here's a lot happening, y'all. It's a bunch happening on that day. So just be noticing the energy. It doesn't matter which side you're on. I'm just telling you what's happening. Sun conjunct Pluto. It's not exact, but the sun is applying towards Pluto. Pluto is direct in Aquarius. Sun is direct, of course. It doesn't retrograde because that is our center. But Sun and Pluto are conjunct. The Sun and Pluto on the nodal axis have a sextile and a trine. So here's the trine to the South Node. Here's the sextile to the North Node. So we have a lot of conversations going on about where we're supposed to be heading as a destiny and where we need to be letting go of with that South Node, where we've been already. And we've already learned it. Now we take what we have learned and apply it and move towards this sensitive, spiritual, and I've already pretty much said that, of what that's about. So we have also Mars trining Neptune. That's a positive aspect still with that, the film, the spiritual, it's medicine, it's the pharmaceutical companies, and it's also Mars being in the homeland. So what is Mars revisiting and revising about that? And then Venus conjunct Saturn. We have Venus, love, beauty, money, security. Saturn, banking, leadership, those in leadership positions. So the shadow side, Venus doesn't or it may acquiesce to relationship in order to keep a relationship. Saturn might be too controlling. So what are these two talking about with each other and as they are joined? Now the moon will also quincunx Venus and Saturn on this day of the inauguration. So the moon is our emotional body. It's in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. And it's kind of an interesting dynamic there, being a quincunx. So that's like sand in your shoe. Quincunx is a low-grade irritation you can't do anything about, but you have to find coping mechanisms, breathing, walking out in nature, yoga, stretching, doing exercising, something to help your body move and cope. If you have a trigger, emotional trigger, because the moon is our emotional body, it means to go in and work with that and having like you don't have to respond to somebody just because they need you right then, unless it's an emergency, but take a moment to breathe and gather your thoughts. And the moon quincunx these two planets here, they're all talking to each other and it's a little frustrating. This is also the people, and the Saturn's also those in leadership, and then Venus is our money, and we have in banking involved. There could be something regarding that. And then let's see if there's anything else. I think that's about it. So that's going to be pretty predominant right there to look at. And I think there may have been one more. Mars is sextile to Uranus, so there's also that's still very positive. And then it's still trying to, yep, I think I mentioned all of them. All right, so now let's move on to the next one is post-inauguration. I brought this up because the moon, a square, we had the square to the sun and Pluto. So that was on the 21st. And so I just thought that might be something noteworthy, having that squaring the sun and the moon and Pluto, and they're all at 1 degree. So just notice there could be an emotional impact happening on that day with that angle there. All right. And this is the Aquarian, humanitarian. This is the Scorpio, hidden truths underneath the surface, our deeper truth. All right. And I didn't want to talk about all that. That's the post-inauguration. Okay, well, I think we have done it. And I thank you for spending the time with me today. And I know that's still going off. And thank you for watching. And that's Mallory Key, astrology.com. If you have any questions about reading your natal chart, feel free to contact me at MalloryKeyAstrology.com. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.